Have you ever heard of the Silent Woods? It's a forest in Appalachia so quiet, people say you can hear your own blood flowing. But that's not what makes it dangerous. It's what you don't hear. Locals have a name for it. The hush. They say the forest listens. It happened to a group of experienced hikers a few years back. 4 friends, all equipped with the best gear. They went in for a 2-day trip. On the first night, they were telling stories around the campfire when one of them, Mark, suddenly went quiet. He just stared into the trees, his face pale. His friends asked what was wrong. He whispered, "It's gone." The noise, the crickets, the wind, the rustling of leaves, everything had stopped. There was just a dead, heavy silence. They tried to laugh it off, saying it was just a calm night. But the silence didn't feel calm. It felt hungry. One by one, they each felt it. An oppressive weight, like the air itself, was being held in. They decided to pack up and leave right then. As they scrambled to get their things, another hiker, Sarah, let out a tiny gasp. She pointed to the edge of the firelight. The trees were closer, not by a lot, just a few inches. But they had all sworn their camp was in a wide clearing. Panicked, they ran. They didn't use a trail. They just ran from the crushing silence. Only one of them made it out by dawn. He told rescuers he didn't dare look back, but he could feel it the whole time, the forest, holding its breath, waiting for him to get tired. The others were never found, not a footprint, not a piece of gear. It's like the moment they stopped making noise, the forest simply swallowed them whole. You should be careful what you do in old graveyards. It's not the ghosts you need to worry about, it's the statues. There's a particular legend about a cemetery in Savannah, known for its mournful, lifelike angel monuments. They call them the Watchers. The story goes that these statues don't move when you're not looking. They do something far worse. They mimic. It started with a photographer named Ben, who was obsessed with the place. He'd spend hours there at dusk, trying to capture the perfect, eerie shot. One evening, he was focused on a specific statue of a weeping angel, its face buried in its hands. As a joke for his social media, he posed next to it, mimicking its exact posture. He held it for a minute while his camera's self-timer went off. He got the photo and thought nothing of it. But when he got home, he felt stiff. His neck ached. The next day, his joints felt like they were locking up. He went to a doctor who couldn't find anything wrong. Within a week, he could barely move his arms. He was terrified. He remembered the legend he'd once heard from a local. The stone remembers, buy, and if you offer it a new pose, it might just take it. He realized his mistake. He wasn't just posing. He was making an offering. In a desperate panic, he drove back to the cemetery. He found the weeping angel statue, but it wasn't in the same pose. It was standing tall, one hand outstretched, as if reaching for the sky. It was the exact way Ben would stand when he felt proud of a photograph. Burned on the statue's stone face, for the first time, was the faint, chilling outline of a smile. Ben was never able to lift a camera again. What if a ghost wasn't a person, but an object? In an old manor in Dorset, England, there's an artifact known as the Screaming Skull. For centuries, it has sat on the mantelpiece, and the owners have one single rule: never, ever remove it from the house. Legend says it belongs to a man who was betrayed and murdered within the walls, and his dying wish was to remain in his home forever. Of course, over the years, many people thought this was just a silly superstition. In the 1970s, a new owner, a rational businessman, bought the manor. He hated the gruesome skull and ordered it buried in the garden. That very night, the whole house was filled with the most blood-curdling screams. It wasn't a human sound. It was a shriek of pure rage and agony that seemed to come from the very stones of the house itself. It didn't stop until the terrified owner dug up the skull and placed it back on the mantel. A few years later, a group of university students decided to test the legend. They broke in one night and stole the skull, speeding away in their car. They didn't even make it a mile down the road. The driver started screaming that the skull was shrieking right in his ear, even though it was silent in the back seat. He lost control, and the car crashed into an ancient oak tree. The lone survivor said that in the moments after the crash, everything was silent except for one sound. A low, satisfied chuckle that seemed to come from the bag holding the skull. The skull was returned by the police the next day, and it has remained there silently ever since. Everything you've been told about the Boogeyman is a lie. He doesn't want to hurt you. He doesn't want to scare you. He's not a monster. He's a collector. They say he lives in the spaces we forget under, the bed, in the back of the closet, in the dusty attic. And he collects the things we've lost. Not just things, but the idea of them. The warmth of a forgotten sweater, the joy of a lost toy, the memory of a faded photograph. But sometimes he makes a trade. There was a story about a little girl named Lily who lost her favorite silver locket, a gift from her grandmother. She was heartbroken. That night, as she was falling asleep, she saw her closet door creak open just a crack. A long, spindly hand, made of shadow and dust, reached out and placed a small, polished seashell on her nightstand. Lily wasn't scared. She just felt a deep sadness. She knew it was a trade. The Boogeyman had found her locket, and this was his offer. But she missed her locket too much. She whispered into the dark, "I'm sorry, that's not it." The hand paused, then slowly retracted, taking the seashell with it. The door clicked shut. The next morning, Lily woke up and felt fine. But when she went downstairs, her parents looked at her with a strange, blank expression. Her photo wasn't on the wall. Her grandmother called, asking her mother if she'd ever had another child. Because when you refuse the Boogeyman's trade, he doesn't just keep what you've lost. He takes the memory of you from everyone else, adding it to his collection. You get to keep your locket, but you'll be the only one who remembers it. Have you ever felt a sudden cold spot in a perfectly warm room? A chill that has nothing to do with the temperature. That's how you know one is near. They're called hungry ghosts. According to lore, These are the spirits of people who were incredibly greedy or envious in life. In death, they are cursed with an insatiable, gnawing hunger. But it's not for food. They're starving for life itself, for warmth, for happiness, for energy. A college student named Sam was pulling an all-nighter in his dorm. It was stuffy and warm, but around 3 a.m., a wave of cold washed over him. The hairs on his arms stood up. He felt a profound sense of despair, a deep, hollow emptiness that he knew wasn't his own. He felt pity, remembering a story his grandmother told him. He made a terrible mistake. He wanted to help the poor spirit. He whispered into the room, "You must be so cold. You can have some of my warmth." The effect was instantaneous. The warmth didn't just leave his skin. It felt like it was being vacuumed from his bones. The cozy room became frigid. The light from his desk lamp seemed to dim, and the vibrant colors on his computer screen looked gray and faded. He felt weaker than he'd ever felt, his chest aching with a hollow feeling, as if something inside him had been scooped out. He could almost hear a faint, grateful sigh on the air. His roommate found him the next morning, passed out at his desk, pale and shivering. For a month, he was perpetually cold and exhausted, with no medical explanation. He learned the hard way. You never, ever offer a hungry ghost a taste, because once they know what you have, they will always come back for more.